Hello and welcome to Madoka Magicast, the podcast devoted to the dark magical girl anime franchise. Fuela Maggie, Madoka Magica. I am your host Amanda. I'm not going to say that part. I don't know why I wrote that. I'm your host Amanda, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Yasha and Vanna. They are the longtime owners of the biggest revolutionary girl Utena website known as Empty Movement, and I am a big Sailor Moon nerd who wanted them to watch Madoka Magica, so we did a podcast about it. They were new fans of the show when we started. I think it's safe to say they're fans of the show now.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh yeah.
On this podcast, we talk about what we love and don't love about the series and all of its spin-off material. And today, we're finally back after like 10 months since our last episode about Different Story to finally wrap up Different Story.
Mm-hmm.
It has been a bit of a dry spell, to say the least.
Little bit, yeah.
But we're finally back. We talked about this off mic, but I think we agreed that the reason it took us so long to get off our asses and actually address this last volume of this spin-off manga is because it feels like nothing really happens.
Yeah.
Like, everything that happened at the end of the second volume is so big and emotional, explosive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you read the third volume and, like, it doesn't feel as big.
It really doesn't.
To that second volume. Yeah.
Well, a couple of things happen, but they're not super...
I think I've got an idea of why. I have a theory, but we'll get to it.
Okay. Just a few things. I don't know if we want to address a few things before we get into it, but, like, some stuff has happened in the Madoka sphere since we recorded together.
I know there was an anniversary and some pretty sick merch drop.
Yeah, I mean, it got covered on the show, just not with you guys, so I don't know if you guys wanted to comment on it at all, because there was, like, you know, kind of another really big announcement earlier this year. A kind of a big thing that everybody was waiting for 10 years.
Another movie.
Another movie! That's what it was! Golly!
There's gotta be some sort of, like, Curb Your Enthusiasm background music to the whole concept of the dropping another movie. Okay, I do not know any details about this, just that... why?
Just that another movie, because...
Is it, like, a follow-up to Rebellion? Is it a remake?
It is apparently meant to be a follow-up to Rebellion. Yes.
That makes more sense than another
remake. Okay, well, that pleases me, and...
Yeah.
And probably... Oh, and Yasha, you could, like, put a beep. Just beep that.
That's okay. That's okay.
I made tweet jump out of it. That's gonna make us happy. I don't know who else is gonna be happy about that, because actually that's kind of a power move. Like, here's this thing everyone hated. Here's some more of it. Happy 20th!
Oh,
high five!
No,
or I guess this is 10. This is 10.
Not everybody hated it.
Here's this continuation of this thing that 50% of you liked, and 50% of you didn't like. We're already dug in. Let's go ahead and keep on going at this point.
Yeah, I kind of wonder who this is going to be for, because is it for the 50% that liked it, or is it going to be kind of an attempt to salvage the opinion of the 50% that did not? Like, I feel like either way it goes, it's going to piss one of these halves off, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do after...
Yeah, I really don't.
That. It's kind of like, and I always bring up Star Wars whenever we're talking about this damn show, but it is kind of like a Last Jedi situation where it's like, how do you continue on after angering half of the people
that were interested,
making the other half happy?
Well, I mean, ideally what they end up doing, and this is a long shot, but ideally what they end up doing is, while still acknowledging that there is a lot of trauma in Homura's past and all of that kind of thing, she and Madoka come to some kind of equilibrium.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That would be the easy thing to do, the easy and obvious thing. I don't know if people are going to be happy if that's what they do.
Well,
because
I do think
people expect them to do pain and the unexpected.
Well, there's
Yeah, I'm
like this
saying.
whole like equality of capacity. Because like in the original series, there's this huge power imbalance between these two characters. One knows some things, the other one doesn't, etc., etc. Aside from that literal first iteration, and that followed through into Rebellion. But at this point, if it's like God, Madoka, and Devil, Homura, they're theoretically on even keel a bit. Just that it's like now galactic proportions, and Kyubey is, a chew toy, which I do think
that would be great. I would love that.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
yeah.
It's a merch drive. Let's be honest. They're going to make some new outfits. We're going to get some new merch.
Yes. I think we can all be confident that is going to happen. Without a doubt.
The Angel, Madoka, and Devil Homura figures will be revamped and awesome again, because, I mean, that really was quite an aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I'm curious more to see what they attempt to do than I am excited it's getting done, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I would rather they stick to their guns than do a Rise of Skywalker situation where they try to backtrack on the things that people didn't like about Rebellion. Like don't try to address criticism.
Yeah, like don't list that. You can commit to this.
Just stick to what you meant to do from the beginning. Like just keep going. You already went in that direction. Just keep going in that direction. Like,
keep
don't go back
too,
on it. Yeah.
There are a lot of different ways to reach equilibrium.
Yeah.
I mean, it could end up with both Madoka and Homura becoming completely powerless at the end. It could, and as long as there's some kind of parity between the two of them, I think that's probably the best way to go. Whether it's because they're both gods or because they're both completely robbed of power.
Yeah, I feel compelled to, and I've done this so many times that I feel like it should have its own, like, shitty sound effect. But I've compared this a lot to Evangelion. And in this production cycle, I think there's some parallels to draw. Like, you've gotten, like, a long enough time scale that at this point, if it's the same group of people making a movie sequel, they've had time to chew on it, and they've had time to grow around it, so I kind of wonder if it's going to be a Thrice Upon a Time situation where they're kind of like revisiting their franchise as a whole, and the film will be more about processing that than it will be specifically about being a film that makes sense, is good, or compelling.
I would be alright with that.
Yeah, like I don't think that'd be a problem. I enjoyed Thrice Upon a Time from that point of view.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's what everyone wants.
I mostly enjoyed that movie also.
Yeah, like...
Yeah. The first 45 minutes of that movie were wonderful.
This sounds familiar! That's a mood. No, but I do wonder if it's going to be kind of that sort of thing where it's more of a retrospective of the franchise as a whole, and in that case, I kind of wonder, if our friend has gotten a little therapy and is in a better place, are we going to get a more wholesome end to it than we got with Rebellion, which was a very angry, poop on my franchise, desk flip, you guys missed the point, losers, so I'm gonna explode it, kind of energy that I loved. If this is more of a, like...
I would not bet on that man getting therapy, ever. Probably not.
But I do kind of wonder, like, how it's going to go from that angle. As a cash grab, it's like, God bless. You deserve it.
I mean, it sounds like you guys already know, but Gen is on movie 3.
He is? Okay.
Yes, he is.
Excellent.
I don't know if you guys saw my 1-minute shit post when they announced movie 3 or not.
I don't think I did.
Oh, hold on. Okay.
If half an hour of the new Rebellion movie is Homura learning how to garden, I actually won't mind that. That's good for her.
Homura painting happy little trees.
Yeah, painting happy little trees. I think that will be a good a growth moment for her.
Learning how to knit.
Gen would never allow that.
I don't know. I don't know where Gen's at these days.
All right, here you go. Hopefully you can't hear it through my earphones. This was the poster.
Oh, the poster's already like, oh shit. Is that what it's called? Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no! No!
Brilliant.
Big same.
Brilliant.
Big same. Co-signed. Yeah. Honestly, there's also the not having Orobuchi that would also be just, like, grimly fascinating in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
That would just be Magia record.
It's true.
Like that's why I made that, because
we want him
if you can't, any Rebellion sequel that didn't have Gen, it would just be like, okay,
Magia Echo.
we already know what Madoka property without Gen in it looks like.
Yeah.
Or at least have the guy who writes the manga spin-offs do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, getting back to different story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I forget his name.
Hanokage?
We've looked up. No, Hanokage's the artist. There's an actual guy. There's an actual guy who writes the story for, like, all of the manga spin-offs that are drawn by Hanokage.
Oh, okay.
I just don't remember his name right now. And he's good. You know, like he probably works with Magia Quartet to, like, at least have the basics down, so he probably gets at least some feedback from Gen. So Gen is probably still involved in to some capacity with the manga spin-offs, but, like, he at least is competent and and can write the characters, you know? Yeah.
Yep. We say right before we start tearing it apart.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think it's a lack of good characterization or anything.
No. I'm just shitting on it because I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. The different story did turn out, I mean, reasonably okay. It's a little thin, but
I think it's
all right.
I think it's still fun because, like, one of the things about the Utena franchise that's nice is it's explicitly a new take on each iteration. They don't try to, like, make continuity stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that sense, I enjoyed Different Story because it was, a different story. Especially with Madoka getting a bit bumpier when it tries to draw out its premise into a larger scale. Like Rebellion, I think that's part of why people didn't jive necessarily with both is the premise started to strain the characterization a bit too much. So I'm glad that there's kind of, like, reiterations. I am also kind of curious to see a continuation explicitly to Rebellion in, like, the equal opposite way. But I don't know. I kind of disagree because I feel like the manga, at least this one that we've read, it definitely does not have the same bones that lead up to Rebellion.
Yeah.
No.
Like,
yeah.
It does not want to have a sad ending.
It didn't want to have a sad ending. Did you read the author's note at the back? Well, I guess we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
But.
Well,
yeah.
I would say it has the same kind of sad ending that the anime series has.
Yeah.
Which, in my opinion, is not really also not meant to be a sad ending.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah. But, like, you want to end it on a note that makes the story feel complete. You know? Where it feels like the characters have come to some kind of conclusion at the end. So you need to have it. I'm looking at the last page. You kind of need to have it bookended in some way.
Yeah.
This way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's also kind of weird how the story explains what ends up happening to Kyoko and Mami.
Yeah.
By the end of this, it's very weird. This volume is very weird.
Yeah.
This third volume. But let's get into that.
Let's do it. I'm not gonna lie, I've read this thing like 3 times now, and I'm hoping that during the course of this podcast, it makes sense to me. So...
Yeah, I read it a few times too. And like I mentioned, the reason it took us so long to sit down and record this episode, it took me a long time to sit down and take notes about it. It took me a long time to organize my thoughts. It's because it feels like a lot of nothing happens at the end of this once. Because I'm sure everybody listening to this has also not visited this since we last talked about it almost a year ago. Basically, where we left off was Sayaka has just become a witch, right? Well, everyone remembers Sayaka had her thing where she suspected that Hitomi was being targeted by a witch, and she just kind of let her go without confirming that she was okay or not. And then it turned out that she was being targeted by a witch, and then she had her own little self-flagellation guilt trip about it. How... oh god, I'm such a bad person for not checking on my friend and making sure that she's okay. Oh my god, I'm such a bad person. And like she was like dead set on not forgiving herself for it, essentially. and the whole thing turned into her turning into a witch, essentially. Like, just, and Mommy ran off to try to save her, and Mommy finally confessed that she's not a perfect magical girl, and she really just wanted someone to be with her because she was lonely. And she had this big character moment of coming out and confessing this to someone, and she was trying to make a connection to Sayaka, like, look, I'm not perfect either. It's okay. Yeah. We can still be friends. And that ended up being the thing that made Sayaka turn into a witch. Oops. Whoopsies. Yeah. Oh, my hero is actually just as much of a garbage person as I believe myself to be.
The world is meaningless.
Well, guess I'm gonna be a witch now.
Yeah. And that's very well telegraphed, because, like, she says so way earlier on. She's like, if I found out that you were just a shitty person, that wanted to hang out with a shitty person like me, I'd be disappointed in you. And it's like,
She actually tells her that, you're right.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
And it's like, oh boy. Mommy,
so,
you were taking the wrong route there.
Yeah. Other things that were going on in the story was that Madoka was, like, still kind of just following them around like she does in the anime, like, because she was worried about them. And Homura and Kyoko were doing this thing together, trying to work together, kind of like they do in the anime, because Homura knows, well, Purgus Nocta's coming, so Homura is, like, kind of in the background while this is happening. Like, that's where we left off at. And so we left off with Mommy, like, in the rain, laying in the mud, having just watched Sayaka turn into a witch, and basically also having just learned that witches are people, and, like, this big dramatic reveal, right? And the next chapter starts off with a long-ass flashback.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a very extended flashback.
Of, like, stuff we've already been over.
Yep.
You know? Like, I think a couple times by now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it starts off with this flashback with Mommy, of her, again, like, thinking about how she regrets not saving her family. And then we see her, like, it looks like shortly after she turned into a magical girl, like, talking to Kyubey about how she regrets not wishing to save her family. And Kyubey is, you know, talking to her about that decision and saying, no, it's okay, you gotta fight wishes, you're gonna be fine. And Mommy, and I'm trying to paraphrase here, because this is, like, really stuff we've been over already.
Yeah.
And she basically decides, that's fine, I'll save people. And she meets other magical girls, and they don't want to help her save people. And she finds Kyoko, and Kyoko becomes her disciple. And she was so happy that Kyoko became her disciple. And then Kyoko leaves her, and she's sad because she's alone again.
Yeah. And this is all stuff that we've covered.
Yep.
Yeah, all stuff that we've covered. And then we're back to the fight with Sayaka, and we see again that Sayaka's soul gem explodes into a grief seed, and we see Mommy get sucked up into Sayaka's... Well, I don't know if she's getting sucked up into Sayaka's labyrinth, but we see the train tracks from Octavia's thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mommy's, like, again, being like, oh, I'm sad because I failed another person. So it's, like, more of the same shtick that Mommy has had the whole manga. And then finally, like, this is on the bottom, page 16. 16 pages in, we finally get to, like, what is actually happening after all of that. So,
Catch back up to the present.
Yeah. So Madoka, who's been wandering around in the rain looking for Mommy and Sayaka, like, finally finds her, and Mommy just lies to Madoka and says, oh, it's fine, Sayaka went home because it's raining, we decided to stop hunting witches.
Yeah, she just lies.
Yeah. So why don't you go home, and don't worry about us, and everything's okay.
I mean, in Mommy's defense here, what do you say in a situation like that?
Of course.
Yeah, she literally just had this, like, this entire recap sequence is Mommy needs to open up and be honest with people. And then it, like, bang, next thing she does, fucking lies. Like,
well, wouldn't you, though?
yes,
Mommy
absolutely.
needs to open up and be honest with people, except, whoops, that's the thing that made Sayaka turn into a witch. So
it's
maybe opening up and being honest with people wasn't the right choice after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
I would probably lie in that situation.
Yeah, like, poor mommy. The thing that she needed to do backfired horribly.
She
It's
was
fair.
basically just damned if she did and damned if she didn't.
Yeah, it's too little too late.
It's
Yeah.
way too little.
Yeah. So after that, we get a scene of Homura and Kyoko. And Homura basically catches Kyoko up on what's going on, tells her that magical girls are witches, tells her what happens to Sayaka, and that's going to happen to Mommy, and just tells her, like, you need to forget about them. Like, it's just
It's done, yeah.
Kyoko says, Kyoko's like, fuck that.
Because Kyoko is a good girl.
Yes, she still cares. Homura's like, no, because I know that Homer is not a good girl, because she will go ballistic and shoot everybody when she finds out the truth, because she remembers, and Kyoko's not willing to believe that, so she decides she's gonna go find Mommy and, like, help her. Yeah.
I think this is part of where this chapter starts to feel a bit like it's struggling, and part of it is because Homura feels off. And it's because in this story, Homura's behavior has to adjust to create this plot line. And I feel like it becomes moments where Homura is acting dumb, or she's not doing the thing, like, it's not clear what her actual goal is in this, like, iteration. So the choices she makes they seem kind of at odds with what we are assuming her goals have been up to this point. And I mean, that could be, like, if this is, like, iteration 5 out of 50, you know, Homura might not have it down yet, and she is, like, still experimenting and things like that. But it does feel sometimes like Homura's choices here in when she discloses and how and why feel much more about the story than about Homura's plan getting hatched. You know, womp womp.
Yep.
I get the feeling from this, including from stuff that happens later, that this is late Homura. This is, like, very close to the beginning of the anime Homura. Because she kind of has the attitude of, like, if this doesn't work out, I guess I'll just reset again.
Yeah.
Like she kind of has, like, a, oh well, if it doesn't work out kind of sense to some of this. So, I think that might be why she isn't super worried about whether things are actually going to work or not.
Yeah.
Me, I'll like the slapping the top
sense.
of the car meme. This kid has so much trauma.
Yep.
Packs so much trauma in her.
Homura has so much trauma in her.
Yeah, and if she is in a position where she, like, does not trust Mommy, which does definitely seem to be the case in, like, this chapter and the next one, like, it makes sense that she just doesn't care what happens with Mommy, and she's not really invested in what's going on with Mommy. But you're right in the sense that, like, she is trying to get Homer to work with, not Homer, Kyoko to work with her, so why would she let Kyoko just walk off?
Yeah.
Other than it just being what I said, like, well, I guess I'll just give it a try, and if it doesn't work, I guess I'll just reset again.
Which makes sense, because I think it gets kind of established over the course of, like, the IP at large that Mommy is supposed to die early.
Yeah.
Like she's not really a character in
and
the
Homura
same way.
And Homura knows that.
Yeah. So this is almost like Homura is as confused as we are that Mommy's not dead.
Yeah, and Homura knows that Sayaka is hopeless too. Like, she knows that there's no point in really trying to save her. So, like, that's why she's so apathetic and trying to tell Kyoko, like, listen, this is a waste of time.
Yeah. And, like, Kyoko, she also kind of knows how that usually pans out, so she's kind of like, at this point, all three of you are usually dead, so desk flip, off you go, I guess. Like, you know, you've got one hit point left, I don't know what else to say. Just go. But it does seem a little weird, and, yeah, the whole being there when Sayaka turns and all that, it's kind of like, okay, well, how did she survive? Why is she still alive? Are they, like, two witches that are just hovering next to each other now? Or, you know, did the big witch eat the little witch? Or, like, it leaves a lot of questions. that, I mean, get explained sort of later, but I can see why it felt confusing to read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I had to read the wiki. I'm
There's
not
gonna be
lie.
Yeah.
But it leads up to the sick fight we've been waiting for.
Oh, yes, my goodness. So, yeah,
It is a pretty cool fight.
So Kyoko is like, whatever, I don't care what you're saying. I'm gonna go leave. Homer's like, no, don't die. It's gonna be bad. And she's like,
No,
I don't care.
You're so pretty.
Yeah, Kyoko's like, I can't, I'm not gonna abandon mommy anymore. I'm gonna go take care of her.
Yeah.
So she finds mommy tracking down a witch, and it looks like basically there's gonna be a showdown. Kyoko refuses to leave her alone. Mommy refuses to not hunt Sayaka, and they're gonna finally duke it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it for chapter 9.
Yeah.
Chapter 9. That's all that happens. It's
Pretty
actually
much.
pretty short.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a fart.
Yeah.
Exposition fart.
Chapter 10 starts with Kubi and Homura in her weird sliding chalkboard house.
Yes.
We see Kyubi and Homura. He asks if he intends to stop Kyoko and Mami, and she says no. Homura flashes back on past timelines, remembering Mami's murder spree.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, maybe we should just stay the fuck away from mommy.
Yeah.
Like she's thinking back on like all their good times, but then she can't separate it from like
All
that
the trauma.
one time.
Yeah, and she does warn Kyoko that if Kyoko goes to see mommy right now, she's probably going to die.
Yeah.
And Homura seems to be like, yeah, I guess this is just how this is gonna go. Whoever is around mommy when mommy has to process this whole witch thing is just going to get murked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Mami and Kyoko are fighting, and they're
fighting,
honest-
and they're fighting, and they're fighting, and they're
And they're
fighting.
fighting,
It
and they're
goes
fighting.
on. It goes on for so long. It's
feels
really
very
pretty.
DBZ. It feels very
Yeah.
DBZ, but it is pretty.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, oh yeah, well, I was hiding my strength this whole time. Oh yeah, well, I have this, like, it was just very, like,
Yeah.
several pages of, oh yeah, well, pew pew. Which,
Mhm.
you know, is good.
It is a lot of pages.
But it
of
is a lot of
fighting.
pages. There's not much to say about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Eventually, it boils down to Kyoko looking like she's gonna win, because I think Mami's arm got hurt. So Kyoko's like taunting her, like, you ain't gonna beat anybody with that arm, and why don't you stop being stupid, that kind of thing. And she tells Mami that it isn't her fault that Sayaka became a witch. And Mami agrees and said it's Kyoko's fault.
Oh!
Says if Kyoko hadn't been hoarding grief seeds, there would have been enough for lots of magical girls, including Sayaka.
And she's referring back to something that Kyubei told her of like how this would have happened eventually because there were too many magical girls in this area. So like when there's too many magical girls, then there's not enough grief seeds for everybody. So eventually,
Is this commentary
Eventually
on the
something's
oppression
gotta
of the
give.
middle class?
yeah.
You're just still Squid Gaming in your head.
I'm still Squid Gaming.
Oh, Squid Game's so good.
This is magical Squid Game.
Yeah.
The whole like premise of like a scarcity of witches is just like, that's not how any of this works. If there's more magical girls, there's more witches. Everybody wins either way, if we call it that. But yeah.
So Mami basically realizes that she's starting to be consumed by her grudges and her blame and all of that kind of thing, and she kind of realizes that it's only a matter of time before she turns into a witch. And she basically is like, well, I guess I'm gonna die then, and shoots down the ceiling on top of her.
On top of Kyoko.
On top of Kyoko, sorry.
Yeah. Although we know that didn't kill Kyoko.
Of course not.
It doesn't even have, like, the energy of it successfully killing her, like, you could tell.
Yeah.
That it's going to not work that way.
It's a fake out.
It's a fake out. Because now Kyoko's got her magic transformy thing again.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of buried that for the last minute, as you do when you're in a DBZ style fight.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So, like,
I mean, it was just to spoil what happens a little bit towards the end, but yeah. Basically, yes.
So there's some more back and forth in their fighting. It ends up looking like Mami has the advantage, and then we cut to Madoka. And she's just awake, worrying about her friends. she's kind of almost like praying.
Yeah, it's weird that the fight is interrupted with this, like, 1.5 page glimpse of Madoka.
Yeah. Being like,
And
I
then
wish
we
everyone
just-
was happy.
We just go straight back to the fight. I don't quite know what the point of that was.
If the only thing I could think of when I saw it is like, is this supposed to be like telegraphing Madoka's like decision about the magical girls when she becomes one? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Maybe.
like burying
I think
that in your
so.
mind, reminding you that, oh yeah, she's gonna save everybody or whatever.
Maybe. Maybe.
I think that's probably it. That's the only thing I can work out from it. To be honest, what I thought of was in Monkey Island. Do you remember those little parts where it's like, meanwhile, deep under Monkey Island?
Yes.
And then it shows you what's happening on the pirate ship.
I love that you killed everyone.
Yeah. I just love that you killed everyone on my ship and me too and turned me into a ghost.
If it wasn't sad, it would feel like a comic like interlude, but it's not.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of like with at one point, Mommy has Kyoko strung up in string and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's got like a lot of like Christ visuals and shit like that, which, you know, I feel like is a very obvious, you know, given Kyoko's.
Well, yeah, because
stuff.
Kyoko's explaining to Mommy that Homura told her, like, hey, Homura told me this was going to happen. That you were going ballistic and that you were going to kill me. And I didn't believe her because I didn't think you were like that.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are. Looks like you're about to kill me.
It's just like, dude, don't.
Yeah.
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 And she's all like, okay, fine, so shoot me then. Just go ahead and shoot me if it'll make you happy, says Kyoko.
And she does.
And yeah, Mommy does. And
You see a shattered soul gem and everything.
Yeah, she shoots her. And we see her soul gem shatter and everything. And her little barrier with, like, the diamonds disappears. And there's smoke coming off of Mommy's muzzle. So yeah, she shot Kyoko and shattered her soul gem.
There you go.
So what do you think that actually does, though? What do you think that actually does?
What do you mean?
Well, in terms of, I mean, stuff that happens later on in this story, we kind of know what that does-ish, but does that mean that she's not a magical girl anymore?
Shooting the soul gem, I think, would be tantamount to shooting someone in the heart.
Yeah, we
So
know that
it's a
if
one-hit
you...
KO.
We know that if you shatter, yeah, we know from the anime that if you destroy somebody's soul gem, that it's that you kill them essentially, because that's their real body, quote unquote, according to Kyubey, is the soul gem. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, so you're supposed to be like, oh damn, that really happened that way.
Yeah. So, but like immediately after she kills Kyoko,
she tries to leave, and then her magical girl outfit fades away, and she collapses because she's out of magic.
Which is the thing that Kyoko does
corrupted.
mention during the battle, that Mommy has a habit of overextending her magic. And playing too fast and loose with it. So it makes sense that she flops over at that point, and her soul gem is like starting to fizzle out, you know?
Yep. And of course, the little white shit rat is waiting for... What?
I love Kyubey.
I hate him so
What
much.
What a great character. Just, an adorable distillation of fury and badness.
He shows up to gloat. He shows up because he wants to watch Mommy turn into a witch now.
Yep.
What a dick. I mean, wouldn't you, if this was your plan and it was your best laid plan, wouldn't you show up? Like, from his point of view, this feels rational.
I'm sure it does, but that doesn't stop him from being a little shit rat.
Absolutely. He's a complete shit rat. But he is also very useful for Kyubey explaining the plot when we get confused, which is what I think he starts to do at that point, is explain, like, this is why y'all fucked up or whatever. But he's just like, I'm just here waiting, because it's one of my duties, I think he says.
So
then we, like, get into a flashback.
Yeah, Mommy's laying there looking at the entrance to Sayaka's labyrinth, and she's, like, unable to get up. And she's like, looks like I can't go kill Sayaka and help her lay to rest after all. And that's like when she has this flashback while she's like laying there waiting to turn into a witch. She's just like wallowing in her misery, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. This whole like twist felt very odd to me. like, she's having this flashback of, like, you know, Mommy saying she's proud to be friends with Kyoko, and
yeah, she's training with Kyoko.
Yeah, she's training with Kyoko, and then there's this kind of like intimate moment as they like win the day where Kyoko says she doesn't see her as a friend. It's very obvious to the reader that she means that she sees her as something bigger, but Mommy is so self-absorbed and full of her. She's such a Lydia Soprano that she's like, this definitely will mean that she's not friends and doesn't want to be around me and hates me and blah, 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 blah. So
I think that's the worst comparison ever, Mommy and Lydia Soprano.
in this moment,
I don't understand that reference, so explain it to me.
Lydia Soprano is
From The Sopranos, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
you know, like how Tony is a basket case? He's a basket case because he's raised by this narcissistic, miserable bitch who does nothing but be angry at everything.
Well, why don't you just die then, kind of lady?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I don't like...
Mommy's not
I
quite
know. That's why I said it's the worst comparison
it was
ever.
an unfair comparison. But she is wallowing in her misery, and she is, like, justifying her choices and stuff by just the worst possible reading of a situation she never lets resolve properly.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyoko does start saying, I don't see you as a friend, and then, like, gets all flustered and fucking runs off, because we knew where that was going. That shit was getting gay.
Too gay.
Too gay.
What I love about this is that apparently this happened because lesbians couldn't pick up flirting signals, which is like the biggest joke on social media about lesbians not being able to flirt with each other and understand
this really is this.
with.
Yeah, what do they call it? It's called the lesbian sheep effect or something.
Yeah, this is dumb lesbian energy on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
A girl asked me out today. Do you guys think she likes me? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Like one of those things.
We kissed, but I think it was a practice thing. What do you guys think? Like, it very much that.
My best friend proposed to me today. Do you guys think she might like me or something? I'm so confused.
Literally our plot arc too.
Or have you ever seen this on our relationships or anything like that? There's always the one that's like, I live with my best friend. She's the best friend I've ever had in my life, and I love her more than anything else in the world and all of that. And I got a boyfriend now, and she's really mad at me, and I don't understand why. And she's really mad, and I don't know what to do, because she's more important than any boy ever could be, but I don't know what to do about it.
This is literally, that's literally Mommy and Kyoko with Sayaka in the background being like the third that they don't realize could just be a throuple. Like, they have, each of them has two hands. You could have just...
Yeah, it's like, Mommy, Kyoko's like, you always call us friends, but, Kyoko's trying to be like, actually, I kind of see you not as a friend. You're like, more than a friend to me or something. And Mommy's like, huh? What does that mean? And Kyoko's like, nothing, bye! And she, like, runs away. And Mommy's solution to not knowing what this means is, she must mean we're not friends at all. And
so
therefore,
I need to be more butch and awesome, so she'll stay with me, but if I'm the ideal magical girl, said Tenjo Utena in this universe.
This must mean I can't this must mean I can't be weak in any way, and I have to be perfect. Yeah, no, Mommy.
I'm glad you asked somebody about that, Mommy, instead of just coming to your own toxic conclusions.
Jesus,
I have no experience with this, so I have no idea what she's doing. I don't relate at all.
So that twist is like, is that what you meant? Is that what you meant? Like, that twist is weird? Is that what you're talking about?
It's kind of weird, but it's also cute.
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt very like, oh my god, because up to this point, to be honest, I had a very hard time following what the fuck was going on with these characters, because, like, I'm dumb or whatever, and then it came to this, and it's like, oh, they're both just gay idiots. Like, they're just dumb. Like, they're idiots. It's cute.
Yeah, in this, like, I don't remember, do you mean, like, the whole 3 volumes, or do you just mean, like, this volume?
This last volume, because the battle got very confusing, because they did a whole bunch of, like, twists of, like, surprise, I had the upper hand, until it's kind of hard to see who the fuck was actually trying to win or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that's the point, is that really neither of them wants to win or lose. They just want to be gay together and get over this shit, but neither of them can do that. Because as demonstrated here, we can't communicate.
They cannot.
At all.
They're so bad at communicating.
No communicating. So
They
I do
are
think it's
like
cute how
14.
that turns out. But, you know, from that flashback and all that on, like, Mommy doesn't get any positive, like, processing out of that. She just gets worse, and you start seeing her turn into a witch or whatever.
Yeah.
A younger mommy shows up.
So this is Witch Mommy, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah, that
This-
did not seem obvious to me for a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
It took me a moment.
she is going off on like the whole all you have to
Fantasy.
do is build your ideal world. Your new ideal
Oh, yes,
friends
this part,
will
yes.
never betray you. Nobody will say that you're not friends, like Sakura-san said. Nobody will just vanish on you like Miki-san did. You'll have tea parties that will make you forget the time completely. And then Mommy's like, yes, if I just become a witch, everyone will
great.
always be with me.
She's definitely not seen Rebellion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Witch Mommy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's which one?
Yep.
Yeah. She's talking to herself. She's on the verge of becoming a witch. But what
Justifying it to
happens?
herself.
But what happens? Kyoko
Pew,
shows
pew.
up and is fine.
Apparently.
Kyoko's
apparently.
alive!
The fuck?
Kyoko's
yeah.
alive! Yeah, she's not dead at all.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
What a queen. And it turns out that's because she had her, and that's like the thing that I was like, oops, I kind of mentioned this too early.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, Kyoko has, because up to this point, Kyoko's lost her mimicry ability and all of that, and she's just been using these other skills that she's developed.
Yeah, she used to have that phantasma,
Yes.
whatever power.
And this
Yeah.
was her using the phantasma power to be a version of her that Mommy could shoot and kill, but she hadn't mentioned it up to this point, so presumably this is a good trick because Mommy isn't looking for that anymore.
Mhm.
And then, you know, plot twist, she totally like, psych, I've been alive this whole time, you killed the fake me, but holy shit, you would have killed me. The fuck?
And
Yeah.
that
That's
is that for chapter 10.
And that's for the next chapter. Which
Yeah.
so that was also a quick chapter, actually.
Yeah, we're like very close to being done. This volume is short. We're more than halfway through the volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing quite well. And chapter 11, I feel like that's kind of one of the the heavier one as far as trying to keep track of what's going on. But that's where we open now with Kyoko kind of announcing that her earlier death was a trick. She regained her fascination magic, and she does express a little surprise that Mommy was totally down to murk her ex-bestie.
Yeah.
You know, Mommy tells Kyoko she wanted to be her friend. That's all she wanted, and she regrets not telling her because they could have just not done any of this. And unlike with Sayako, who did not want to hear, I just wanted to be your friend instead of I wanted to be cool, this is actually what Kyoko did want to hear, is I just want to be your friend instead of having to be super cool.
Yeah.
You know, a little
so maybe
like,
a little processing happened.
a little processing maybe happened. It's
Yeah.
a start. But she also reveals that she knew Kyoko's death was a trick and that it was only an illusion because
So-
Kyoko's old ones were better.
So actually,
Oh.
maybe she wasn't down to Merker because maybe
Yeah.
she did know. Yeah. So we don't really know, but
We don't really know. At
Yeah.
this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Mommy would convince herself within seconds that she knew that to save
to save
Face.
face.
her
Yeah.
own personal sense of face. So at
Definitely
this point, I'm not
possible.
sure who thinks they won here and who didn't. I'm not convinced Mommy really knew. I think she just is absolutely going to refuse to process the idea that she could have killed her best friend the moment that option is off the table. It's the same energy with which, like, she pretty much always kills herself and everyone as soon as she finds out about the witches.
Mhm.
Like, a certain escalation of terror and Mommy's just gonna cut the cord and be out. So it wouldn't surprise me if she totally did think she shot Kyoko, but figured out a couple seconds later she didn't and rolled with
yeah.
Either
It
way.
also it's very cute that it is. Kyoko is very cute when she realizes that she did
Yeah.
not, in fact, pull one over Mommy's eyes.
this. She's like
So-
flushed and pissed, like,
Yeah. So
like, yeah.
maybe it doesn't even matter to Kyoko, perhaps.
No.
If yeah. But they seem to kind of make up here because Mommy tells her that it's okay for us to go ahead and be friends, or for you to let yourself have friends, because they can help you make up for your weaknesses and, like, cover for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I think that's kind of ironic coming from Mami, who took on that senpai role so adamantly because she didn't want to admit that she also had weaknesses that were being compensated for.
Mm.
And Kyoko's like the same way. So of course they can't have that meeting of minds where, ooh, our weaknesses, are compensated for. Because both of them want to pretend they have no weaknesses. So I could, and then they were both tops, I guess, is the problem with this relationship.
Yeah.
And then Mommy's like, okay, well, now that we're done apologizing to each other, do me a favor and kill me, and then go kill Sayaka.
Yeah, like...
I really like the line that they use there. This concludes our regret party.
Yeah, I actually really liked that.
That sounds like something you should do over tea.
That's a good self-aware moment that they've just been jerking off with their self-regret for like an entire violent battle of dwindling resources. And now they're like, oops. Anyway, we should do another thing.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Mommy begs Kyoko to finish her off, and then finish off Sayaka. Kyoko tries to shoulder the blame and struggles to go through with it.
Because,
that's...
And then we flash back for Kyoko. We had a little flashback with Mommy, and then we flash back to Kyoko, to when she told her dad she was a magical girl. And, Dad had a totally rational and okay response of starting to abuse her mother.
That's normal.
That's good and normal. That's like the kind of thing that's so good and normal it required no further elaboration in the story. We just like, that fucking tracks. Fuck. And at that point,
she tells Mommy that, like, she would have, like, fallen to despair and turned into a witch when that started happening if it hadn't been for Mommy. Like, like Mommy being there for her. Which I can believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Broken ass abusive home. Mommy was like the bright light for her. So, yeah. And that does also like introduce or reiterate the idea that, while the, falling into grief is sort of seen as an inevitability, that is not something that is just a set time frame that's going to happen. You have to choose to start to despair. So it kind of plays with the idea of, like, could this be something that's self-sustaining? If you happened to be able to kill all of the witches and none of them developed and it was just you as a magical girl left, did you win? I don't know. But it does track that the supportive friend helps somebody through an abusive home situation. And then there's, like, magic on top. It's just sort of...
I would say that as long as Kyubey is around to create more magical girls, you can't win.
We need to destroy Kyubey.
Yeah.
There's my wish for the new movie.
Kyubey is destroyed.
Destroy Kyubey.
It might happen.
That would be
But
cool.
here, Kyubey gets to just be in the background doing whatever he wants. And Kyoko just, discloses that it hadn't been for Mommy. She would have fallen into despair shortly after because of the father's death, regardless of whether Mommy lived up to the senpai role or not. It was really more about a friendship thing. And then, Kyoko pulls that, like, badass, like, I'm so cool thing and uses a grief seed that we hadn't discussed prior on Mommy's soul gem and says it's the real reason she came was she wanted to make Mommy happy again, even if she sucked balls at it and was a total asshole about it. And that kind of tracks. Like, she felt like she had to kind of, like, bury her good intentions around a shell of, like, spiky badass with, like, frayed jean shorts kind of thing. So, this is dumb lesbian energy. Again.
Yeah.
It's dumb gay energy.
Yeah.
Turns to leave and Mommy asks her to promise to never leave again. Kyoko gives her hair ribbon and the prayer key thing. I don't remember the prayer key thing.
The little, the pendant that's not on a necklace.
Yes.
Like the prayer. What is that thing anyway? I don't know. The
knot across. The knot across.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a knot across. Gives it to Mommy as that whole, like, here, borrow this, because I have to come back for it, and that makes it real, and we'll definitely do fine. Kyoko walks away, kind of does the cool wave thing, and she dispels magic cast on her soul gem, showing that it's tainted. So, like,
yeah, this part was, like, kind of weird.
Yeah, this was kind of where it took me like a few scans to actually suss out what had
exactly
happened.
was going on.
But she'd been glamoring her own soul gem as well, so it looked healthy and stuff when Mommy was looking at it, because Mommy would have made a whole different course of decisions if she thought Kyoko was about to die too. So she pretends she's fine, uses this grief seed that she's got on Mommy, and basically just kind of goes off to her death because she's already got a tainted soul gem, and she goes to fight Octavia.
Now, see, girls, the smart thing to do would have been reveal that your soul gem is tainted, back off for a day or two, go find some weaker witch, kill her, untaint the soul gem, then both of you go after Sayaka and get rid of her. I'm just saying.
I mean, there's also the problem of that they don't necessarily agree up to this point on what to do with Sayaka.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they do, but they can't openly say it. Like, they both have different ideas of what saving her is going to look like.
There was a way around this.
There was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But while, so Kyoko's now fighting Octavia, which we all know and love. Best witch. As she's fighting, she imagines a world where Mommy is introducing Kyoko to the other girls. Like, I don't remember, like, if this was supposed to sort of feel like a recap of the beginning of the series, sort of. But she's imagining that this could have gone different, I guess.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, Mommy wakes up in her bed with Madoka and Homura there, and she's fine. And they brought her home, even though one of them isn't even a magical girl, because friendships don't necessarily... Anyway, so Mommy wakes up in her apartment. She's got her friends watching over her. Homura tells her that Sayaka was killed by a witch, and Kyoko's whereabouts are unknown. During this, Mommy starts to, like, blurt some bullshit about how that doesn't work. Homura telepathically... I used to say telepathetically as a child for years before I said this right. Telepathically tells her she doesn't want Madoka to know about the witch thing. That's why she said Sayaka was killed by a witch, rather than became one. Figured that was probably enough trauma for Madoka today, I guess.
Yeah, can we just not tell her about...
I get that, like, everyone is just tying themselves in knots trying to protect Madoka all the time because she's so cute and pink.
Yeah.
I guess
she's also the only one that isn't packed to the gills with trauma.
She's also the only one that hasn't made a contract yet.
Yeah.
There's all that, but clearly they're protecting her. They lie, Madoka leaves, and then Homura asks Mommy for help, because now we can just talk.
Now they can just talk.
And
that's the end of 11. And we're at the final chapter.
But first we get this cute little illustration of these two witches here.
I do like that illustration.
The sister magical girls and their witches.
Yeah,
That's
what if
adorable.
you had, like, friend witches?
Friend witches.
That would be us.
Yeah.
We're already witches. We're just friends.
Yeah, just friends.
Yes.
Just friends.
Just friends!
Who got married.
Just friends.
Okay.
Our relationships, we've been married for a decade. Are we friends? Please confirm/deny.
Okay, so final chapter.
Yes.
So we're right back into the last scene. We're in Mommy's apartment. And Homura tells Mommy, like, by the way, I kind of knew all this shit already. I knew that Sayaka was going to become a witch. I knew, like, your entire backstory, etc. And Homura's like, yeah, I knew all that, but I didn't actually expect you to survive, so, sorry I haven't talked to you until now, which is fucking hilarious, by the way.
Homura, like, never change. Like, that's just so old.
But she's here to talk to her about Walpurgis.
Yeah, now we gotta do our business. Which is why I think this chapter feels disjointed. This is as best a time for any...
like, it does kind of...
Yeah.
Like, it has been mentioned a few times through the comic up to now. But, like, it is a bit of a... It's not the real ending to this comic, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
it feels like that, exactly.
This is the ending because that's how every Homura cycle ends, is having to deal with Walpurgisnacht. But that's not really what this story is about. It's about Mommy and Kyoko. And that's kind of been taken care of already at this point. Like, they don't see each other again.
Yeah. That's why I feel like this book, this whole book feels a little disjointed. because it had a story to tell, and then it realized that, oh wait,
there's another story.
There's the other story that everyone is familiar with, and we have to kind of... To be honest, I think it would have been fine to not do this part at all.
No,
and to just cut it off, and just be like, that was the end of this story. It was a different story.
Let's get through this, and then I agree with you completely. Let's just get through this, and then let's get back to that. Let's put a pin in that, because I can totally envision a better way for this to end.
Big same.
Yeah.
But I don't envy the attempt needing to be made, so.
Yeah. Basically, Homer is like, listen, I'm here to talk about Walpurgis Night. She's like, yep, I understand. She says, I was teaming up with Kyoko to deal with that. Now that you happen to be alive right now, I would like you to come and join us. But I don't know where Kyoko is. And she's like, well, it's okay because me and Kyoko actually talked about having to take down Walpurgis Night too. Mm-hmm. So we've actually also promised this in the past. So they're kind of on the same page when it comes to Walpurgis Night already anyway.
Yeah, it's a very speedy, cover-up of okay, now we all have the same goal.
Yeah.
Where's Kyoko at?
Yeah.
And Homura, asks Mommy if it's possible Kyoko's soul gem was not actually cleansed. She does the whole, grief seed math and realizes that after this huge fucking battle, there's not enough.
Yeah, this is where I was confused, because when I was trying to think about what happened in this, and now... So, I'm looking at the comic as I'm talking, and then I'm looking at my notes. And when I was thinking back, who was it that was tricked into thinking their soul gem was or wasn't purified?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's... I got confused. We mentioned it earlier when we got to that part in the last chapter. But, Homura is asking, are you sure that your soul gem got purified? Because it sounds like there wasn't enough soul gems for both of you after your battle. Because both of you went all out, and you probably both had no magic left. And I don't think you had enough grief seeds for Kyoko. I don't think Kyoko had enough grief seeds to purify her own soul gem and then purify your soul gem.
So whose did she lie about, basically?
Yes. So, and Mommy's like, no, mine's purified. I saw that it got purified. And and Homer's like, are you sure it wasn't an illusion or something? And she's like, what? What? That doesn't make any sense. What was the grief seed then?
Yeah, she literally just looks like she hit a wall, which, fair, because I felt that way at this point.
Yeah, so basically what is being posited here is that Kyoko took out Miki, I think, and I think that, or not Miki, Sayaka, and I think Mommy, for some reason, is like, no, that never would have happened.
No.
Yeah, she says there's no way she would do something that cruel, and Homer's just like, I wonder.
Yeah.
But I don't understand what Mommy thinks she was going to do, or Kyoko was going to do other than that.
Yeah.
Maybe she thought that Kyoko was following my suggestion and backing off for a couple of days to pick off a smaller witch.
That, or, you know what? It's already in the manga. Mommy is given the idea that Kyoko stockpiles grief seeds. Mm-hmm. So she might think, oh, well, Kyoko probably has an extra one lying around somewhere, so she would have them to spare. And Kyoko knows that, so Kyoko probably felt like she'd be able to sell this pretty easily, and she did. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, here's a grief seed. I'll just go get, some more.
Yeah, I'll just go get another from my, magic pocket dimension where I keep my soul gem, or grief seeds.
Yeah, which she never had in the first place, but...
This is where I'm confused. So, because Kyubey appears, and this is very anticlimactic. I don't like this ending.
No.
Kyubey appears, and he's like, yeah, guess what?
They're both dead.
Sayaka is dead, by the way. Her witch was defeated. And also Kyoko's dead. She just died off. She died off screen.
Yep, off screen.
Yep, she's dead. She's dead, by the way. And then we get a flashback, and we see that Kyoko is using Sayaka's grief seed. It has Sayaka's moon symbol.
Yep. She's
using the Sayaka grief seed to purify Mommy's soul gem.
Grim.
And it looks like this happened when Mommy was passed out on the ground. Mm-hmm. So I guess she did this before waking up Mommy.
Mm-hmm.
So she must have already gone and fought Sayaka and killed her and killed the witch, got the grief seed, and then went and found Mommy.
Yeah.
So what we didn't know as the audience earlier was that when Mommy was having her little flashback, she was like actually knocked out for a significant length of time.
Yeah, long enough for Kyoko.
Yeah, and then when Kyoko came and woke her up, she had actually been out for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what this feels like? This feels like because in this manga, the real emotional arc is Kyoko and Mami instead of Kyoko and Sayaka. This feels like a really kind of awkward attempt to, I don't know, like write Sayaka out. Like that arc literally happens off screen, where in the show that's like the big climax is Kyoko fighting Octavia. But that can't be here because that's not where they want the emotional energy, so it just sort of happens off screen, but Kyoko beats her?
They're more like romantic rivals in this manga.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which also makes sense, because if you do it in a flashback off screen and that emotional weight isn't there, then yeah, Kyoko probably could kill her, to be honest. If she wasn't deliberately trying to get murked. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, hold on, I gotta flip back, because when she was supposedly tricking her with healing a soul gem earlier, what was that? Because now I'm confused about what that was about.
I'm not sure either. Because I feel like, why was she passed out that time? Like...
So she was so her soul gem was already cleansed when she tricked her into thinking that she cleansed it again?
Yeah. Like,
why would that be necessary?
If I were Kyoko dealing with Mami, I would do something like that, even if I was going to do the same thing once she woke up, just to skip the fucking conversation.
I mean, that's big fair.
Like,
wouldn't Mommy have been able to feel that her soul gem was completely okay?
That, I think, is a conceit of the narrative that we just have to roll with. Because it does feel like, why would that trick work? Because, yeah, it does feel like they should, like, and they do kind of demonstrate being able to sense when their shit's drained. Mm-hmm. So it is kind of like, okay, why does that work? Why does that not work? That I'm not so sure about. I felt like at the end of the salient point was that Kyoko chose to heal Mami, presumably with Sayaka's grief seed, rather than heal herself. And then she just walks off into the sunset and fights some rando witch and dies.
Yeah.
Which is much less awesome.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the page. I have the page open where Kyoko gives Mami her hair ribbon and the knot cross.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and on the opposite page, Kyoko walks away and she has another grief seed in her hand. So maybe she's trying to make it look like she still has more grief seeds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in the panel below that, Mami is like maybe falling back asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then the soul gem in her hand turns back into a tainted of her soul gem, but that makes no sense.
Okay, so would it be
I'm
in that
so confused. I'm so confused about what's going on
in that case, could it be that Kyoko illusions her Mami's grief seed into being soul gem, into being okay before she wakes up to look at it. So she thinks she can get healed, but really, Kyoko's got, like, even the grief seed they have isn't enough to heal either of them past their death. So, understanding that, maybe she just kind of wants Mami to have a safe exit, a comfortable death, so to speak, where she's just going to...
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like... But they find her and take her back to her apartment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't die. So...
Yeah. So, it looks like what happened is she illusioned Mami's soul gem to look normal, made the promise with Mami, let the illusion dissipate, and then used the grief seed from Sayaka on it.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that extra step was there.
Yeah.
Unless, like you kind of mentioned, that it could have taken a really long time for her to be out. It could have been that Kyoko went, killed Octavia, and then came back.
Yeah. That could be.
That feels like a lot of steps to try to include in, like, 4 pages of manga.
Mm-hmm.
But...
that must be what happened.
Yeah, it's the only thing that makes sense
that she came back? Yeah.
I feel like that's stretching the ability to tell story in this medium quickly.
Yeah.
Because it feels hard to follow.
But it is the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
If she, especially if, because I was looking at that grief seed that Kyoko had in her hand, and it doesn't look like it's Sayaka's grief seed.
Oh, because you know what? If she magics Mami into thinking her soul gem has been cleaned a bit, she knows that Mami will pass out quietly.
Won't give in to despair.
Yeah, she won't give in to despair, but she'll pass out quietly.
Yeah.
So she's like buying time to go kill Sayaka and come back.
Yeah.
I think that must be what happened.
See, that doesn't look like...
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like Sayaka's soul gem, the one that she's holding there. So she must have used that soul gem to cleanse her own so that she could survive Octavia, beat Octavia, and then used that soul gem to cleanse Mami's while Mami was passed out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Basically, like, that's Kyoko being, like, huge self-sacrificial Catholic bullshit.
Yeah.
Because that requires Kyoko realize from the outset that someone isn't going to survive. So she's choosing to be the one that doesn't survive under really the only conditions Mami's going to permit. Because Kyoko knows someone's got to go kill Octavia. Mami doesn't seem like she's going to be able to do it because she doesn't handle that whole plot arc very well.
Yeah.
So Kyoko's kind of like, okay, shh, go to sleep.
Everything's fine. I'll be back right away.
Yeah. Yep. And if she fails, then Mami is going to die without grief. She'll just die because she's that close to death, but she didn't despair. She passed out. Or Kyoko will survive, have, given Octavia the death she needed, put her out of her despair, and can go heal Mami. And then she's not going to have enough energy for herself. She goes off into the sunset and dies.
Yeah.
She's like a cat. Like, she's just sort of like, I'm going to fix everything and then go off screen. So, I guess that sort of makes sense, but even that, took 3 people to iron out
How long
a
have we
reasonable...
been trying to figure this out for now?
Are we just bad at manga? Because, that's
Maybe,
also a
yeah,
possibility.
it might just be that we're bad at manga.
I don't know. It is, I don't think you're bad at manga. I just think it's very clumsy.
It's a little convoluted, and like I said, it's requiring that they write Sayaka out real quickly, and I think that's why it feels the way it does, is this is scrambling to pick up loose threads and close them, and the chapters coming up to it knew it had to do that as well. It feels like the end of Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
Which is a weird reference for me to be making, but it feels like that. It's like, okay, all of these threads make sense, and all of them do follow from what led up to them, but they're being compressed so suddenly that it doesn't
have time to breathe, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But that feels like what it does, is like we've concluded Sayaka's arc that way, gets them out of the picture, and then Kyubei just shows up and is like, nah, they're both fucking dead.
Yeah, and Kyubei's here to just sow some more misery.
Pretty much.
Anyway, all that bullshit aside.
Yeah.
Kyubei shows up, he's like, by the way, they're both dead. She died off screen. Turns out I guess she fooled you into thinking that your soul gem was cleansed. It wasn't. She went and killed Sayaka, came back, cleansed it while you were out, and then went off to fight some more witches, and that's when she died. She just died to some random witches.
Yeah, which is like, oh, fuck you.
That's inglorious.
Yeah.
Gowron would not approve.
But it's the only way to explain why Sayaka, why there was an extra grief seed to...
Yeah, she was just out of magic while she was fighting other witches, and she just died.
Yeah.
And then Kyubei's like, oh, by the way, it's, none of your fault, really, that Sayaka became a witch, because, you were all kind of, no longer doing what you were supposed to be doing, because, you all thought that Sayaka was going to be good at witch hunting, but she wasn't, and, you were holding off on fighting witches because you wanted to help Sayaka be the one to do it. So you also weren't fighting witches, and then Kyoko wasn't fighting witches anymore like she normally was. So she wasn't doing her thing. So you guys were in this weird stalemate where none of you were doing your normal thing anymore. And so if this had continued with the 3 of you being around, being in this weird conundrum that the 3 of you were in, you guys, all three of you would have turned into witches. So isn't it great that things turned out the way they were? They did.
Dude.
Only one of you had to turn into a witch. Isn't that great?
Dude,
It's
you remember like how in the series Kyubey says that his people have no emotions?
Yeah.
Which is
what a
total
crock of
dog
shit.
shit. This is totally someone with no emotions explaining why everything went to hell.
Yeah.
Because, like, someone with no emotions wouldn't be able to just summarize it as, y'all didn't communicate.
Yeah. He's like, God, and then he's like, God, it really would have helped me out if both of you had turned into witches, though. Oh, well.
I know. It's just like your comically evil Kyubey comes in.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, though.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mommy gets so pissed that she points a gun at him.
Good girl. What a good girl.
Yeah.
Kill that
a
white
good
shit
moment.
rat.
Yeah, and Kyubey does his bullshit like, I don't know why you're upset. All I did was grant your wish. I don't understand why you're so upset about the lives of a couple people, like his usual Kyubey thing.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yes.
What a terrible thing.
Mommy's like, I think she kind of senses that she's not going to get anything out of him.
Yeah.
So she kind of just gives up on being pissed at him. And she's like, I don't understand why I'm still alive when these two people that, she thinks were more deserving of being alive are gone. And Homer is like, okay, well, if you want to die so bad, I'll go ahead and kill you. And she takes one of her guns out. And Mommy for a second is like, oh, really? You will? And then
Thanks.
Homer just slaps her.
And it's so good.
She's like,
that is
bitch.
worth it.
No, of course I'm not going to do that, you jackass. And she's like, if you die now, then, like, what was the point of any of this, right? Like, there was no point of all the people that you protected so far. Like, Walpurgis Nacht is coming. It's gonna kill everybody. Like,
You're not doing better.
Yeah, these two people that you killed, that you cared about, are dead. But you saved, like, umpteen more people than just that over the course of you being a magical girl. So, like, stop listening to what the rat is saying and, like, snap out of it. 'Cause, no.
Homer talking sense.
I feel like in this iteration of the story, it's a lot less about falling into despair than it is as falling into guilt.
Homer is speaking from her own, like, need to press on here. Like, the things that she has learned.
Yeah.
Over the course of all this, yeah.
Doesn't work.
Homer is like, you said you made a promise to Kyoko that you were gonna, like, you told me that you promised to Kyoko that you were gonna fight Walpurgis Nacht. So
I'm calling in your marker, bitch, right
Yeah,
now.
like, if you're serious about that, then you can't be like, oh, I wish I was dead now. Like, you have to keep going and you have to come with me and fight her.
She says everything short of telling her that, like, wanting to die at this point is selfish.
Yeah.
Like, that's what she's implying.
A little bit. Yeah.
But she's also very bad at communicating, so
yeah.
she doesn't go that route. But that's clearly what she thinks.
What's really interesting is that Homer actually tells Mommy the story of Mommy trying to kill everyone after she finds out about the witch thing without telling her that that's what it is. Right?
Mm-hmm. I like that.
She's like, hey, this one time somebody saved me in, like, a really weird situation where I was in, like, a group of friends and, like, something really bad happened and a friend of mine like almost killed me, and another one of my friends stepped in and had to sacrifice that former comrade of hers, and it was really hard for her, and it was like took a really hard toll on her, but it was a sacrifice that she made in order to save my life. And, like, in the end, she ended up dying in the end, but, like, she made me promise that I had to keep going on. And like, now I do that because if I don't, then what was the point of her, like, going through everything that she went through and having to kill her friend in order to save me? Like, I wasted, like, I'm throwing all of that in the trash and, like, putting all of her misery to waste if I just give up. Like, she's giving, and she's totally right.
Yeah, she's totally giving her own plot arc.
The irony of this is that the villain she's talking about is Mommy.
I I do like that. I feel
Yeah.
like after like so many iterations, Homer would develop a very dark sense of humor about this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, yeah. I mean, it does hit, and it does feel like they come to like kind of an understanding, and they're like, we're gonna do this then.
Yeah, and I actually do, as messy as this last volume is, I do really like this because in the anime and in Rebellion, like, Homer and Mommy are not friends. Like, they're not close. They're actually pretty antagonistic towards each other, and they have very opposite experiences with being a magical girl and, like, with Kyubey.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
They're probably, out of all the girls, they are the most not friends. Like, out of all the pairings that you can make.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That's definitely the most strange ship.
Yeah, so, like, this is them actually kind of...
Sort of.
Like, I don't want to say reconciling, but, like, a little bit coming to an understanding, or at least Homura kind of almost, like, making a connection with her, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, she might as well if she's going to deal with her in this iteration instead of Mommy getting, like, murked right away.
Yeah.
So I guess there's that.
So I did like that element of it, yeah.
Yeah, I do like it because it shows how just different their approaches are, and they just bang against each other until they sort of make a peace. Which is, you know, at some communication, a little bit. But they kind of leave it like, we'll get up and talk tomorrow, but they agree not to tell Madoka any of this. Let's all keep... That's the thing they agree on. Is Mommy and Homer a handshake, don't tell Madoka anything. That's the only thing they agree on, which is the thing that neither of them should be thinking. But sure. Mommy tells Kyubey to leave, and Kyubey is like, oh, okay, I'll leave, but you've got another friend coming, and it's Madoka coming in.
Outside the door.
Yeah. I kind of like, what would happen if she'd just been, like, earring this whole time, and, like, oops. That actually probably would have made this whole chapter go a lot quicker, and it'd work as well.
Madoka is too good a girl to do that. It's
true.
sad, but it's true.
It's sad. That is sad. That's unfortunate, because that could have saved a lot of time. But yeah. So, let's see, where are we at?
So, the final, like, reveal-ish here, before we get to, like, the very, very end, is that, so, Madoka's been standing outside the door this whole time. She didn't leave. She's actually been waiting to come back in because she wants to talk to Mommy about something. So Mommy pours her a cup of tea, and she's like, I need to talk to you. I have a secret. The first time I read this, I was like, oh my god, she's been a magical girl this whole time.
That would be awesome!
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's where I thought this was going.
Like 10D chess from Madoka. That'd be awesome.
I was a little sad. That's not what happened.
It's still pretty satisfying.
That would have been great. I kind of want to see that happen in one of the timelines now. Like,
totally.
Like,
an iteration where she's secretly like that the whole time.
Yeah. Anyway, what actually happened was, apparently Madoka became friends with Kyoko in secret early on in this story.
Of course.
And was, like, talking to Kyoko about what was going on this whole time throughout the story. And they weren't telling the others that they were buddies.
Which is kind of sweet.
Yeah, like, basically, if you remember when Homer and Kyoko saved, I think, her, Mommy, and Sayaka from her witch that one time.
Yeah, and then they started talking after.
Yeah, she went up to Kyoko and was like, introduced herself, said thank you, and they started chit-chatting. And Kyoko asked her, why are you following them around if you are not becoming a magical girl? And Madoka tells her her whole thing about how, you know, I've been friends with Sayaka for a long time, and Sayaka's always been, like, this more sporty girl, and I've always just kind of felt useless, and I don't really know, like, I'm not good at anything. I want to be useful, but I really don't have anything to contribute. And then we met Mommy, and magical girls are so awesome, and I thought I could finally be useful, but then Sayaka ended up becoming a magical girl first. And it turned out that, like, I guess before she even had a chance to do it, kind of like what happened in the anime, like, what ended up happening was that her friend Sayaka ended up, like, drifting away from her. Like, she's explaining all this to Kyoko. So it's kind of like she was hanging around them because she was
She's
sad
third wheeling
that
it even harder.
yeah, she was sad that Sayaka like wasn't really hanging out with her anymore.
So she third wheeled hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like she was also like observing everything going on, so she was kind of like also not wanting to be a magical girl anymore, or like feeling conflicted about it, but also still wanting to be useful and wanting to hang out with Sayaka, like all of that stuff basically. And Kyoko, at the end of all this, Kyoko does her offering of food,
the cigarette looking poppy.
Yeah, which means that she likes someone. If she offers someone food, it means she likes them. And then she tells Madoka about how, well, me and Mommy used to be partners, and then we had a big fight and we're not partners anymore. And now I see her with a new girlfriend, and I'm very sad because I still like my ex. And so I know how you feel, because, you know, feeling like you got left in the dust by, you know, the new person. Yeah. So they kind of basically they became friends, basically. And they started talking. So they started meeting up in secret, but like not telling each other's respective sides, because they know that everyone's fighting. So they weren't telling everybody that they were talking and being friends with each other.
They're the Romeo and Juliet couple from the opposing families going on.
Yeah.
Meeting in secret. Very cute. I think it's just a way to get Madoka into the story, and also to give Kyoko, like, a chance to explain her point of view outside of the framework of the story up to this point. It does still feel a bit tacked on, but it's also, like, very typical of Madoka to have done, so it's like, yeah, fair. Idiots.
Yeah. So we see a few more, like, little glimpses of flashbacks of, like, all the times that they talked. And during one of them, it looks like Madoka actually asks Kyoko to, like, make up with Mommy and be her partner again. But Kyoko, you know, takes it the wrong way and, like, just tells her, none of your business, don't worry about it. You know, you should really go back home with your family and be safe. And we see in one panel that Homura
is listening to this.
Homura actually does know that they're friends. Like, she's in the background listening. And then we're back to the present. And Madoka says, you know, I'm sorry that I didn't tell you about this. And I was the one wanting everybody to be friends with each other, and I wasn't able to...
Dumb Babby Madoka has been watching this whole fucking hot mess thinking, I have to save everybody. Because it is absolutely dumb Babby Madoka's job to, like, fix this all.
I'm so sorry that I couldn't fix the situation for you, Mommy.
Yes.
I have to apologize.
The least powerful person in the room must now apologize for not fixing everything.
Yeah. And then she announces that I'm gonna become a magical girl to fix
because she has to in every version.
Yeah.
It's her turn to protect everyone, and, you know, Mommy disagrees and tells her that making a wish for someone else is always a bad idea, because she feels like she learned that from Kyoko, because Kyoko seems to thought she was right about that, or whatever. It's very strange. Madoka says she's not just doing it for Sayaka, but also so Mommy can go back to being a regular girl. So that's, like, where the wish diverges from how she does it in the anime. That's the impression I got, is that this is, like, she's not changing the fate of the witches, she's just trying to, like, make it so Mommy was never a witch, or never a magical girl? Is that all she does?
I don't know. I mean, we see later, I think we see later, I don't know if it's the exact wording of what she wished for, but that's not what I think she wishes for from what we see later.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
But basically she says, I already, like, it's kind of like the anime where she's like, I already understand that being a magical girl is not great. I understand that it's dangerous, that it's hard, that I'm going to suffer a lot. I already know that, and I still want to do it anyway. So it's kind of like the anime in that sense. But, you know, I want to do it anyway because I want to help Sayaka, and I want to help you, and it's okay. I get it. I know. I'm certain. I have made up my mind. So don't worry. I'm going to be a magical girl. You don't have to do anything. And you don't have to fight anymore. I'm going to go do it for you. And Mommy's just, like, starts crying.
Yeah. It would be very heartfelt if Kyubey wasn't, like, watching from the background, like a creep.
Yeah. Mommy just starts crying and admits, like, you're right. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to do this.
It takes her a few, like, efforts to say it, too. Like,
Yeah.
Like, that's hard to get out.
She seems honestly very relieved that Madoka's doing this. Yeah.
You know what? Fair.
Q-baby lurkin'.
Yep. This whole time, Mommy's been struggling with the selfishness of wanting a thing and feeling like she doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So, I'll call this a growth moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's just, I want this whether I deserve it or not. And we'll call that growth.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
So, lurkin' Q-bae's like, that's fine. Madoka can handle this all herself.
Mm-hmm.
So then we flash forward. We see that Sayaka's back, Madoka's a magical girl, and Homer's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like she has made a wish. Her wish appears to have been to bring Sayaka back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I gathered from that anyway.
Yes. Homura is thinking to herself, me and Mommy can't be friends, or could never have been friends,
Mm-hmm.
because Mommy's the person who inspired Madoka to be a magical girl. So we can't be friends.
Yeah. I guess fair. That's a good grudge.
Yeah. And then Homura, through her narration, informs us, the reader, that Mami Tomoe left her last request and destroyed her soul gem herself. So after Madoka made her wish to bring Sayaka back to life, it looks like Mami committed suicide, basically, by destroying her soul gem.
Oofa. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
weird.
So Homura is telling herself she couldn't be friends with Mommy, but the artwork makes it look like she's actually a little bit unhappy about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Homura and Sayaka and Mommy jump off to go after Walpurgisnacht. Sayaka's like, you're not allowed to be sad, Homura, because you're the veteran. And, you know,
Damn. Yeah.
and I gotta fight too, because I gotta make the most of Madoka's wish to bring me back to life. So, you know, they all go off to fight. And Homura, this is what I was talking about earlier, where Homura thinks to herself, let's do this. It doesn't matter how many times I gotta reset anyway, so let's just see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that has big, I don't think it's gonna work this time vibes.
Yeah.
In a way that I feel like the ending of the series did not have when it was literally just Homura doing it. Like she's just got this idea that at the end of the day, Homura is only going to win if she does it herself.
She prepared some significant artillery, so
Yeah.
I gotta say, she, like,
That's
I can't
still one
blame-
of the best
I can't-
sequences in anime.
yeah. I
Yeah.
can't blame her for thinking that was gonna work. I mean...
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last few pages are,
yeah.
like, heaven?
I guess.
Or a
Yeah.
dream? Something weird. It
Yeah.
looks, it's like Mommy and Kyoko having a tea party, and Mommy's like, the other girls are coming late. They're coming, but they're gonna be here late. And she's like, when Sayaka gets here, you have to be nice and, like, make up, or I'm not gonna let you have any cake when they get here.
Denying Kyoko food. Oh,
Yeah.
what a sin.
Oof. Yeah.
That's a harsh
And then
punishment.
She answers the door, and there's two silhouettes there, and, like, the implication is, I think, is that this is her parents.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And, like, in between all the panels, there's this narration about, you know, I'm sorry that I'm not there. I can't help you kill witches. I'm happy that we were able to be friends. Thanks to you, I wasn't a lonely magical girl anymore, because we were friends. Like, this is definitely, like, Homura said something about how she left a suicide note, I think, is what she was, like, implying. So maybe that's what this is. And then
that
the very...
sounds about right.
Yeah, the very last page, we see Mommy, like, I think laying on her couch with the ribbon from Kyoko, the pendant thing that was in her hair, and her soul gem, which is, I guess, shattered. It looks different from how I would think it would be shattered like that. I don't know. It looks kind of strange. It was drawn weird. But I guess it's broken. So, yeah, it looks like she essentially committed suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, weird. A little.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Little grim.
It's grim and weird, and Kyoko died off screen.
And Mommy's dead.
Yeah.
Right after this is the author's note that I was mentioning earlier. About
Yeah, would you like to talk about that or read that, or go ahead?
Yeah. I just want to read a part of it.
Sure.
It says, when drawing it, I made a decision to not include the same kind of heartbreak that I used when I was drawing the manga adaptation of the main series, but then I realized that I made it a different kind of heartbreak. I apologize for that. It's a world with a zero-sum game of hope to despair. So I was hoping that I could show you some new things that might be gained and lost in this story. Like, and I remember what we were talking about was, like, how different story is different and in some ways a little more hopeful and not quite as dark, but I kind of think that it ends up right about the same as the series.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it,
Yeah.
Yeah, like it started out having the energy of I want to do a happier story. So I mean that tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And then just sort of like realizing you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Because unless Kyubey gets killed, you have to end it the same way basically every time.
Yeah.
It is a zero-sum game.
Unless you take out Kyubey.
Yeah, that's one of the themes of the show, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't even say that Madoka tricked Kyubey. She just kind of gamed the system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the different story manga.
Yeah.
Way to end on a depressing note.
Yeah.
It is, I do feel, as always, when we go through it in detail for the sake of the podcast, I get a little bit of a better understanding and appreciation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to
Absolutely.
read it so closely to take notes and talk
Yeah.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I've gone over it again, I am less confused and less
Mhm.
but I have to say, the first time you read it, it feels like a lot of nothing. It really
it's
does. It's a lot of flashbacks, it's a lot of fight scenes. Like what happened, that whole thing with the illusion with the soul gem and the grief seed is very confusing.
Totally is.
Yeah, it really is. And it doesn't have the really quick paced story that the last volume had.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how I feel about it in terms of being the final third book in this.
You were saying before that you felt like you knew a way to have ended this that was cleaner.
Oh goodness, what
Tell
was I
me
gonna
about that.
Now what was I gonna say? Oh, the scene of the three girls fighting while Purgus knocked.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been the last scene.
Honestly, yeah, it could have been.
Where Homer is thinking back on what happened to Mommy.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been a better way to, if they wanted a framing device to tell us how this was going to end, that could have been a better thing to use. Do you know, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In some way, because that jumps us straight to the end and tells us, like, okay, we all know that this is how the timeline has to end, right? Look, Sayaka's back. How did that happen? Okay, I'll tell you, right? And then we can have it end on what happens in the story that this is actually about, which is Mommy and Kyoko. And then you can have the last pages of the story be the ending to that story. Instead of having to wrap it up with, okay, now tell us how the timeline ends. Which is kind of how the story feels now. Like, this whole ending is about what happens with Walpurgis Nacht.
When that's really not relevant to the story that was being told on the whole.
Like, that's important to tell us, because that's relevant to what's going on, and is series relevant. Do you know what I'm saying?
But it's not story relevant within this framework.
You can fit that in earlier.
Yeah.
And then have Homer be like, oh, okay, so this is what happened now. After... This is what happened now after, that could have been the first scene in this book.
Yeah, basically mimicking the structure of the series.
Yeah, and then you would have been like, oh, this is how this plays out? Tell me. Because we just came from this very emotional scene. And then we jump ahead, and it's like, well, I want to know what happened after that last scene. Tell me how Sayaka comes back to life. That makes no sense.
Yeah, like, where the fuck is she coming from?
And then it's like, oh, now I gotta know. And then you read the rest of it. And then it can end on the big reveal that Kyoko actually hadn't restored her own soul gem or something. Do you know what I'm saying?
I feel like the end of chapter 10 or so, you could have, you had a perfectly adequate, clean looking cake at that point.
Yeah.
And then, like, someone showed up with all the decorations, and they just added them and added them and added them, and you kept like, oh, well, here's this, we gotta cover Walpurgis Nacht, and, we gotta, like, make Madoka's presence make sense, and...
We gotta include some more flashbacks so that the audience is sad enough, because this is Madoka, and people need to be sad, because that's what they expect for Madoka.
Y'all didn't need that. It was...
Yeah.
I feel like the story ended, between Kyoko and Mami. And even if you'd left it unclear who actually won that round, whether it was illusions or not, I'd have been fine with that as a fuck you ending.
Yeah.
But like, it is clear that was the end of the emotional arc, and this was this sort of like cleanup cruise situation, which I don't envy.
Yeah, it was like an epilogue. It's like, okay, now we gotta talk about what happens with Walpurgis Nacht.
You know what? If they'd called this chapter the epilogue instead of the final episode, it would have worked better. Because you would have been mentally severing it from
the rest
of it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of like, that little detail could have helped a lot. Because you don't read it as an epilogue, you read it as a continuity, and it just feels very disjointed. The investment of the characters switches around, stuff that doesn't make sense suddenly happens. As an epilogue, it's fine, though. I'm guessing that's probably what they meant for it to be, sort of.
Well, the title of Chapter 12 isn't Chapter 12, it's Final Episode.
Yeah.
Because the chapters are the manga calls this chapters episodes. So Chapter 9 is Episode 9, blah, blah, blah.
Maybe they were taking a page from HBO, where the last episode has to be the one that ties off all the strings.
Yeah. I don't think that works with Madoka, though.
No.
Because that's not their, Madoka's style.
Yeah, no, I know.
To get, like, the clean, loose, ends tied off. And I feel like it, like, ends up raising more questions than it actually answers. But, you know what, that's okay. I get that was a huge challenge. They had to take this whole, like, character interaction, give it a whole arc, but then they still had to end it the same way, and that's an unenviable position. I think it probably would have been better if they'd been, like, the writer had been empowered to just not have to address that ending at all, and it be a smaller story within it. But I think, like, the smaller story within it kind of came into conflict with, this is a different... We're telling the story of a different timeline that happened, which I think is more the explicit intent by the end, and that's kind of where it feels a little bit bumpy, but it's still kind of like, it's still okay.
Yeah,
like,
that doesn't make it not worthwhile.
No, it makes it a little bumpy, but that's okay. So was the series. Like,
well,
I don't know. Okay, those two movies were bumpy.
Those two movies are trash.
I think the series is almost perfect, personally. But...
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't bumpy in this sense.
Yeah, the series wasn't bumpy at all. The series was very densely written.
Which also makes this even more challenging.
Yeah.
Like, we have this perfect piece of work that does exactly what it needs to do and ends exactly the way it needs to end. What are we going to stick on top of this perfect thing that needs nothing more added? That's an unenviable position. Like, this is the Many Saints of Newark. Like, good luck, I guess. It won't be bad, but it's probably never going to succeed at what it set out to do because you are comparing it to something so fucking strong. How do you follow that up?
Sopranos reference, by the way.
Yeah, that was very a timely reference that me and, like, no one else is gonna get. That's okay. It's because I'd already mentioned the Sopranos.
I know.
But, yeah, like, I don't envy the position, and I think they probably did just as well with it as they could have. And the whole, like, Mami and Kyoko thing is adorable. Like, I think there was a lot of dumb gay vibes and just dumb disaster friendship vibes and stuff like that. So it was an interesting question, and they had to end it the same way, so it would have the same answer, and that's a bit bumpy. I still think it was good. It was certainly better than I thought it was going to be. So I thought it was just going to be, like, a trash cash grab kind of thing.
Yeah, and I personally want and expect Madoka stuff to not be cash grabs, So yeah, I have high expectations for things in the future that are coming out. Movie
hint. Yeah. do better.
I wonder how much of Magia Record not doing well internationally does this new movie happening. How much of that has to do with this movie?
How did Magia Record do in Japan?
Magireko does very well in Japan. So Magireko is a gacha game.
Yeah.
Originally.
And then they made an anime for
that
it.
did so well they made an anime.
I'm going to guess that, you know, like how earlier we were talking about how there's like 50% of fans pissed off and 50% of fans not pissed off? I feel like Magireko is appealing to one set of that 50%, and for some dumb reason, they're going to go after the other 50% with a new movie. And by that, I mean that 50% that got a little into Magireko, realized it wasn't going to be as good as Madoka, and petered out like I did.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Well, so Magireko, the thing about Magireko is that apparently the game is decent or good.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I played of it, it was pretty good. I didn't get very far in the story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not huge into gacha games.
Yeah.
So I can't...
Yeah, I tried, but...
I can't say that it was or wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
The story was okay. I apparently didn't get to the parts that were really super great.
Yeah.
The anime was not great. The parts that I saw, it definitely wasn't as good as the story in the mobile game. So
Yeah.
I think the whole reason they brought over the gacha game was because they knew the anime was coming, and they wanted the anime to do well internationally, because so much of anime's profit nowadays is from international streaming rights and international merchandise and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they can't just launch a gacha anime internationally
You need
without
a
having the gacha. Yeah. So I think that's why we even got the gacha, right? The thing is, the gacha had been around for like 3 years or something before Japan got the anime.
Mm-hmm.
We got the gacha with the anime.
Right.
So there's a lot of people who tuned in to watch the anime
Who weren't going to play the gacha.
knowing nothing about the gacha. So when the Magireko anime was not very good, and was a lot different from the original Madoka series, of course it wasn't going to do very well.
Yeah.
Internationally. So I'm wondering if that happening had anything to do with them going, for the 10th anniversary, why don't we do something that has more to do with continuing the stuff that we did before Magireko?
Right.
That we think is going to do better internationally. So that we can make
that's
money.
Kind of ingenious, actually.
Yeah.
Because, like, you had this whole Magireko thing that you got to do, like, a test run on and see whether that was going to catch. Because as far as I am aware, this is not commonly done yet. It was an experiment.
Well, it has done very well in Japan. Magireko.
It did very well in Japan. But
Yeah,
they wanted to extend it to, like, a larger audience. Doesn't quite gel. However, they did that leading into a 10th anniversary where they would have an easy excuse to go run back to the parts of the IP that did work.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Like Gen.
yeah, like Gen or Buchi. So I could kind of see, like, in a long-term IP planning, that was actually kind of a good way to do it. Because either Magireko was going to be gangbusters popular outside of Japan, and you'd get to ride on that coattail into the 10th anniversary, or, it was going to do good in Japan, bomb outside, but the 10th anniversary was coming, so either way you were going to have something to offer both ends of that audience.
Yeah, and like,
yeah.
I don't even know if it was intentionally planned that way, but
it does work.
If it was, brilliant. If it didn't work, they went, well, for the 10th anniversary, let's try going back to the drawing board. Because that Magireko shit sure didn't work internationally.
Yep.
Let's do this instead,
Yep. Yeah. Whereas, like, what I've seen of the 25th anniversary imagery, it's much more series and rebellion and very little Magireko stuff. But, also Magireko, like, just bombarded Japan with merch. Mm-hmm. So I'm not surprised they're going back to, like, the familiar faces.
Yeah. And it's the 10th anniversary of the series, not of Magireko. So I would want to see 10th anniversary stuff of the series and not Magireko.
Exactly.
So yeah.
It works in a long-term marketing way. So.
Yeah. So yeah, that was different story.
It was different. And it was a story.
I liked it. I thought
so
it was
did I.
good. Yeah. So I'm glad we finally got it done. I'm sure our listeners are glad to finally get completed too.
Mm-hmm. There are two wolves. This and us recording like 7 episodes on Rebellion.
Yeah.
It's one of them. There's two
Yeah.
There's two wolves in this podcast.
Alright, so thank you for listening to this episode of Madoka Magicast. You can follow the show on social media at Madoka Magicast. That's going to be on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, etc. SoundCloud, YouTube, or etc., etc. All of which is Madoka Magicast. If you would like to follow the hosts, you can follow me, Amanda, at Lambda Power, Lambda Power. Where can the wonderful listeners find you guys online?
If you should want to find us, we are always at ohtori.nu, or at Twitter, we're at ohtori_nu.
We always have something new coming. So
Yeah, we always have something new going on.
Yes. If you are interested in supporting the show, you can support us at patreon.com/MadokaMagicast. Thank you!
woo!
Woo! Turn in next time.
Cuba did nothing wrong.
I don't know about that. I felt like we talked extensively about all the things he definitely did do wrong.
He might have done a wrong here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Cuba is made of wrong.
Alright, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye!
Bye!